Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts. On Android, we recommend Spotify. Also, check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel for all your content across the sports spectrum, including Messi and Company, 3 yards per carry, and more. Also, we always tell you to check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. That's $2.99 per month. Link right here in the description. You will bypass the Apple upcharge. And at Off the Floor, you get the most heat information and conversation. Again, this is where you want to go instead of Twitter. We put everything from Twitter that's interesting on there. Also put all the articles from Sports Illustrated, from the Heat site, and more. It's really a one-stop shop these days. So check it out. It's Off the Floor. Also, PrizePicks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down your $5. You'll get $50 in lineups. They'll be right there on the Explore page, and you can play them. We don't lie to you about this. Legal in the state of Florida, our official fantasy partner, but you got to use the code. It's F-I-V-E. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation. We the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket. Open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor. Still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court. Still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball. Or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleeping paths or allowed to morning. The love is sleeping us. Never catch us snoring. Live from Miami. Report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah. Wade County, Heat Nation, we still proudly.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. And somewhere there in the background, we've got Eternal Bast. You can follow him at Eternal Bast. We have done a series of episodes about the Tyler Herro injury from the moment that it broke all the way through in terms of all of the various repercussions, an episode about his contract situation and how this may affect it. Alex and Brady, Alex, Greg, and myself are on that one. Brady and I got into how the starting lineup might change. And now we're going to try to look at what good can come out of this. And I'm going to start with this part. Nobody wants anybody to get injured. So very clear from the beginning, particularly someone who has emerged as the team's leading scorer and has essentially, gone from 13th overall pick to an all-star. So this is the overall context of this is not a good thing. Okay. But there has been good that has come from some of these situations for the Heat in the past. And I'm going to review some of this, although I've touched on this in other episodes, and then we'll get into it specifically here with Tyler. The first one that comes to mind, and I always bring this one up, is the 2000-2001 season. Where the Heat had finally given up on their core. Now, people talk about running it back.
There's no running it back right now. I mean, it was no running it back after the Jimmy trade and after Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson and after Haywood, like Duncan Robinson. It's not the same team. I think kind of cheating using yours. But I think for most people, the running it back is directly tied to Tyler and Bam.
Yeah, it is. And so cycle back, because I want to give a little history lesson here, and then we'll get into now. So 2000, they make the changes. Okay, they finally trade P.J. Brown and Jamal Mashburn, and they go get Eddie Jones, they go get Anthony Mason, they go get Brian Grant, and the whole idea is they're going to put that around Zoe and Tim. And this team, when that was put together, was projected to finish first in the East. And then we're at Florida Atlantic University, which, by the way, is where training camp will be this year. And we're there in the gym, and Barry and I are looking around. Yes, Barry and I were there at that point. That's how old we both are, 25 years ago. We're looking around, and we're like, where the hell's Zoe? Because it used to be that they would let us watch some of those practices. Yes, Pat actually let us watch some of them. So we're like, where's Zoe? And then all of a sudden it's like, I got to get to a payphone. That's how long ago this was. And, and try to figure out what the heck is going on. And what had happened with Zoe, and the Heat were as secretive those days as they are now, maybe even more so. What happened with Zoe was he'd failed the physical. He'd failed the physical, and they had found, thank God,
Yeah, thank God.
Thank God they found it. They found this very rare kidney disease. And so he was not available. And then there was a lot of speculation about when he would come back, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, he doesn't play the first 69 games of the season. In his absence, the Heat go 42-27 with Riley as the coach. Brian Grant slides over to the center spot. Anthony Mason has an all-star first half of the season, makes the all-star team. They put Bruce Bowen in the starting lineup. They played a different way than they were going to play, and they were ultra competitive. Not first in the East. Then Zoe came back. They went 8-5 down the stretch, and then they just got washed by Charlotte in the first round. Swept off the floor. Pat said he was embarrassed. And a lot of it had to do with, may he rest in peace, Mace was just not into it once Zoe came back. And so things kind of fell apart. And that's something we'll talk about as this season goes forward when Tyler comes back. But anyway, they found some things during that period of time. Okay. Other guys stepped up. At first, they were going to start Dwayne Coswell at center, and then Pat scrapped it. Okay. And decided, okay, we're going to play a functional player there. And that's the direction they went. They went smaller. Then the other example I'll use Eternal, and then we'll pivot to now, is the 2015-16 season where the Heat felt like they had a team again. They felt like they had a squad. It was 2 years after LeBron left. They were going to play through Bosh, Dragic for a full season. Starting lineup, the whole plan was Whiteside, who, again, at that point, that was before the contract, so there was really high hopes for him there. Whiteside, Bosh, Deng, Dragic, and Wade. Okay.
Right.
Pretty damn good starting lineup. Okay. But they were only 2 games over 500 at the break, at the deadline. And then we were in Toronto, and then the news came that Bosh had his second blood clot and not only wouldn't play in the game, but they didn't know that he would be back. And it turns out he wasn't back. Okay. But Spo slid Luol Deng into the 4 spot. They eventually picked up Joe Johnson, who had been bought out. And they made it to the second round of the playoffs before they ran out of gas, because not only was Bosh out, but Whiteside got hurt too. And then they were playing Justice Winslow at center in Game 7. So those are 2 examples, and there are others throughout Heat history, of the Heat making the best of a bad situation. How do they make the best of this one?
I think it's a little bit easier with this one because you just picked up Norm Powell. And it was always going to be a good challenge trying to figure out how Norm and Tyler would fit in the backcourt together. Tyler isn't a natural point guard. He's a playmaker in some ways. Norm did a lot of playing off the ball with James and Kawhi. Did exceptional playing off the ball, but it was going to be a hard fit anyway between the two of them. I think this makes it a little easier. Whether Tyler got hurt or whether Norm got hurt, it's a little easier to kind of mesh together when it's not the two of them trying to share a court together along with Andrew Wiggins, Bam, and Khalil or Nico. I think right now, especially because of the personalities that Norm has, that Bam and Davion and some others on the team, that I think some guys will rally together anyway because of what just happened last year. It'd be different if they were coming off a really, really good season. And a lot of this was built off of Tyler and some others, and you had all of these shakeups. Then it's like, oh, what are we going to do? It'd be a lot more panic. But because last year was a cluster, you know what, then I think it just kind of makes everybody bite down a little harder than they were already going to do and try to figure this out. And we know how Spo gets very mad scientist when it comes to, his back being against the wall. He probably does better when his back is against the wall versus,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when things, and we always say, like, when we have one of those we have enough nights, they tend to play harder and better than when they have their full complement. That's been a problem for the last few years, actually, the other way, that when they've had their full complement of players, it was, oh, they're finally healthy, and then they lay an egg.
Right.
Do you think that, well, first thing, there's particular players who can benefit here. Norm was going to get looks anyway. This is a different way that he's going to get looks. Bam was going to be counted on anyway, although he's got to be more aggressive consistently now from the jump, as does Wiggins. But I look at a couple of other guys. Davion Mitchell is going to be a starter now. I don't think there's any question that Davion's going to be put in the starting lineup. He did some really nice things last year that I don't think people were expecting. The defense, the getting over the screens, that we knew, right? That's where he excels. That's why he was the first round pick, but also he was literally in his first couple of years in the league, one of the worst offensive players in the league statistically by the metrics.
Right.
And last year, once he got to Miami, he was not. He shot a crazy percentage from three. We weren't expecting that again, 45%, but wow. And then, but to me, what was impressive was he consistently got a foot in the paint and was able to make some plays from there. And I don't know that we expected that. Is he, in your view as a player, is he the biggest beneficiary here? Again, nobody's rooting for this to happen, but is he the biggest beneficiary or is it someone else?
I think, honestly, yes, in some ways he is a beneficiary. I don't think he's the biggest one, though. I think the biggest one would probably either Nico or Casper, honestly. I think this kind of not necessarily fast tracks, but if Casper shows some things in training camp, somewhat similar. I mean, we saw Nico his first year get minutes just because some guys were out, right? If you remember the Washington game that he played in, played in the Cleveland game. Khalil got some minutes last year, not super early on, but as far as like November and December. Jaime, of course, came out the gate playing straight off. Pella got some minutes as well. So it's really just an opportunity thing. And I think for Casper, especially after the rough start he had in summer league and then kind of bouncing back just a little bit and being there all summer, not playing for Lithuania, being there all summer, absorbing all of the things the coaches had for him. I think this will be an opportunity to kind of get his toe in the door and then say, well, hey, if you can show us something, this will kind of fast track you into the rotation. Obviously, Jaime. I think it's probably either between Casper, Jaime, and Nico, honestly, for different reasons.
See, I'm gonna challenge you on the Hakachonis one. I don't think this necessarily leads him to minutes early. I'm going to agree with you about the other two, and then I'm going to mention another. And I think you know the other I'm going to mention.
Of course,
it's Pella. It's Pella. That's I think it's Larson because I think the trajectory was there anyway, and we've talked about it. Summer League, Eurobasket, and they did something in Summer League. And it was done with Sweden as well. That is going to pay off now. They put the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
So now they have a sample of him against different types of competition. Obviously not NBA competition, but different types of competition. He was heavily relied upon on both teams, but especially on the Eurobasket team. Like you watch those games. Like there's no way that team gets as far as it did unless he played at a consistently high level.
Right.
And the Heat have taken note of that, obviously. And I just think he is the easiest fit. He's a totally different player than Tyler, obviously. The things that Tyler is strong at, Pella needs work at. The stuff that Pella has shown is the stuff that Tyler's gotten nicked about, right? Like, was the defense and that kind of stuff. Totally different player, but I do think he's a player that has enough in the bag offensively that Spoelstra can put him out there for defense and expect to get something. It's just going to be different. It's not going to be obviously pull-ups and the kind of stuff that we see from Tyler, but it's going to be more kind of cuts, moving off the ball, that sort of thing. The other two that you mentioned, I want to handle after the break because I'm curious to see how the Jovic and Jaquez stuff works. Because I think it's a little more complex there. I think with Pella and Davion, it's a little bit simpler. But I do want to mention a great spot. I want to talk about simple. Great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Our friends over at CASHAPP. I know Eternal's going to tell me just send the $5 to him. Okay, so usually I ask it to be sent to me, but that's all right. He's working hard here on the podcast. CASHAPP. You want to download it for a whole bunch of reasons. One is it's easy. 2 is it's safe, and 3. we've got a great promotion for you that's still going on. For limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash for real. Just download Cash App, use our exclusive referral code. It's on the floor in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days. You get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Instant discounts provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosure. And we also do want to mention the Cash App card, where you can spend, save, and live your life knowing your money is right where you left it. You can check that out at cash.app/card, or right there in the app, you will find a way to download it and to get that deal. All right, let's get to the other two guys, and let's start with Jaquez. The path's been cleared for Jaime Jaquez. First they trade Highsmith, who had moved to the back burner in Spo's mind anyway, but he ate up minutes that Jaquez could have had last year. And now you've gotten rid of your number one scorer. And we went into last season, Eternal, and most people thought the top 5 scorers on the team in some order would be Herro, Bam, Jimmy, Rozier, and Jaquez. And Jaime did not provide that production on a consistent basis. His numbers were about the same, but it didn't look the same. Do you say, again, totally different player from Tyler? It's got from Jaime, it's got to be on attacks. It's got to be finding ways to finish better than he did last season. You don't want him shooting a ton of pull-ups either, but maybe kind of working into some post-ups, mid-range, stuff that we talked about when we thought he could be, sort of Jimmy Jr. Like there's got to be something there. How do you think this affects him? Can he benefit?
I think he can. I think also Jaime has a chip on his shoulder. I mean, you listen to a lot of his offseason interviews. Last season definitely affected him. And you could tell that there was a lot of expectations in the building. And obviously you and I and Brady and some others that have been around the team know, like, you could talk to people. Of course, there was some expectations for Jaime because he had a really, really good rookie season that was impacted by injury later in the season. But a lot of the things that you saw, the cuts, we were talking about Jaime being one of the best cutters on the team, not named Jimmy. So there were a lot of things Jaime was able to do, and Spo talked about, not having to draw up plays for him. And I think coming into the season, hopefully being healthier, having to absorb everything that you went through last season, Jaime can kind of get off to a much better start and go into this camp with a chip on the shoulder, be aggressive, be assertive, have some counters for the counters, right? But I mean, we saw a lot of what Jaime had. We saw as far as a pull-up, mid-range, turnaround, fade that he hit over LeBron. Like, he has some stuff in his bag. It's just being able to get to execute those things. And it looked like last year he couldn't really physically execute those things. And it seemed like it probably was some mental things as well, of just kind of being psyched out of the game, out of his game. So I do think this is a really, really great opportunity for him, like you said, Ethan, because it's the next guy up. Whoever it is, like, it's going to be like whoever can step up, this is your opportunity. And so for Jaime, especially somebody who has the most to prove considering expectations, it is a big opportunity for him.
Well, it is, and I don't see him getting inserted into the starting lineup, but I do think that he's going to end up becoming a primary scorer off the bench, and they're going to need that scoring off the bench, especially because I think the plan was to layer this rotation in a way where when Norm and Tyler weren't playing together, you had another scorer out there with them. And now you don't have Tyler to anchor some of those lineups, and the anchoring of those lineups is going to be different. Now it may end up being Bam anchoring some of those lineups. We've seen Spoelstra do that before. Jovic is the other one, and then I want to close with just a discussion about the defense here. I do think in some ways he'll benefit, but I think in some ways this hurts him. First thing, I've been a proponent of putting him in the starting lineup all along. I agree with Brady that I think it's more likely now. I think it's more likely now because without Herro in the starting lineup, if you're starting Davion, I just think you need a little bit more kind of offensive versatility and punch in that starting group. And I think it may be Jovic over Ware now. and then Ware comes off the bench and plays his 30 minutes or whatever, playing with one or the other. But I also think that one of the things I was looking forward to this year was the chemistry between Jovic and Herro. I felt like that there's been spaces where we've seen that. I know Tyler likes playing with him. So that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. I don't want them leaning on Jovic to have to score 20 every night. What I want to see with Jovic is I want to see them putting him in a position to make plays for himself and others, and have kind of those well-rounded. Firstly, he's got to rebound better. You and I talked about the defensive awareness during Eurobasket, which wasn't always great. Those two things need to come about. He's obviously improved his body. We've seen Ware looks bigger too. Something else we'll talk about in another episode. But, I want to see some 13, 6, and 5 games from him. Like that's where I think that's where he can really help. How do you think Tyler's absence changes things for him?
I think, especially going into the summer and then going into Eurobasket with Nico being healthy, and kind of playing with Jokic and playing with a really, really great player who's also a very cerebral player. And you saw them leaning on Nico at times during the Eurobasket play, even though they didn't make it that far. You saw him at times step up to the plate, and you saw some times where he didn't. But the ownership of not stepping up and putting more on himself, he has the mental pedigree that you're looking for, basically, right? We didn't see it often, but we did see a lot of sometimes him initiating some actions with him and Jokic and the kind of back and forth that they had with each other. I do think there's something that could carry over into the season, and especially with Tyler being out, they're going to need some creation, like you said. So there's going to be more ownership, not on Davion, but I think they're probably going to lean on Bam a lot to kind of create for others. And I think before continuing on Nico, I think I've heard a couple of podcasts that we've done, and I don't think a lot of people are putting enough stock into Bam, who had a down season to start, but the season before and the season before that, and also to end last season. Bam had a very strong stretch of averaging 25 and 10. Yeah. That is just not regular play there. Bam responded very, very well.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'll fill you on something. I sent a text to Greg, Alex, and Brady this morning, and I said I think our next ep should be a Bam one. We need to expect more now, right? Yeah. So yes, I think I think people are. I think we've done this a little bit as well. So I'm glad you pointed out. I think we have included those first 2 months of the season last year in a way that obscured what was happening towards the end, right? Yeah.
And I think not only from Bam expanding out to the 3-point range, but he got his rhythm back and he got some things going where he was able to get up to 25 and 10. Of course, now the team didn't have the playoff performance that they could have had, and you can kind of point to some particular guys and team overall that didn't do it. But I think to end the season, Bam did have a strong end. And I think coming into the season, especially as a de facto leader, like he's going to care. We've seen the attitude on the court of Bam's voice growing, right? And rallying the team together. And I think he's definitely going to rally the guys. He's going to do that anyway going into the season, but I think he's definitely going to rally the guys together. And when I say you can't sleep on Bam, there were points, Ethan, you were there. He looked at the sideline and said, "Give me the effing ball," right? Like he's going to demand I think he was going to do that anyway, regardless if Tyler was healthy. But I definitely think he's definitely going to do that now. But going back to Nico, I think the thing is they're going to lean into him a little bit more as far as initiating and creating some things. And I know there probably are some people that are kind of hesitant to say if he can replicate some of the things he did in Eurobasket because of NBA competition or whatever. But I do think you'll see a lot more of that as far as Nico probably scoring just a little bit more, but trying to basically balancing it out, like scoring, getting to the basket, getting 2 in the paint, kicking out or going for the finish at the basket. So I'm honestly excited to see how camp turns out, like how these guys are going to sharpen each other, because hey, nobody counted on you anyway going into the season. They definitely don't now.
No, they don't. No. And that's one of the other things, and I'll mention these two quickly as we close. I mean, the first one is that the expectations are further down now, even more than they were before. There's a certain freedom in that lack of pressure. The pressure is going to be put on internally from the coaching staff and everybody else. And some guys have contract situations too. So there's some pressure that plays into that. And that's usually a good pressure. But the other thing is, and the key thing here is that, I mean, let's just be honest, that Tyler's not one of their stronger defenders. And Spoelstra leans into defense anyway. And one of the things that got forgotten about that run to the finals a couple of years ago when Tyler was out was that their defensive numbers are really what carried them, especially when after Jimmy got hurt and landed on, the ankle of Josh Hart and everything that happened afterwards. We don't like to talk about that, but they leaned into defense. The guys really competed on that end, and he's going to get that from them again. And there are some defensive lineups he can throw out there that, I mean, you throw out a lineup, if you can even get Norm back to average defensively, which he used to be a little better than that. He was not last year with the Clippers. But if you can get him back to average defensively and you can get Wiggins back to a level that he has been at, you have Larson to deploy there. Obviously, you have Davion, you have Bam. There are some groups he can toss out there. And by the way, Drew Smith, I hear, is not that far away from competing here for a rotation spot. And you can put out some lineups with Drew and with Davion. Now, there's lineups that are going to struggle to score for sure, but Spoelstra likes to play in the mud, and they have an opportunity to play in the mud here. And obviously, you cut down the number of possessions, you give yourself a better chance when the other team is more talented. So that's another of the things that they can lean into here. I'm not, again, going to say that there's a preference for Tyler being out. There's not, but they've done this sort of thing before. There's institutional knowledge in terms of adjusting, and I'll let you finish here. The fact that they have 2 weeks before camp, and there's no way that Spoelstra was blindsided by any of this. Okay, they knew internally that this was a possibility, and then it was like, okay, the shots, everything is not working. Okay, he's not getting any better, so let's all agree to just get this done. But he's known long enough that he's been cooking stuff up. That's got to help. It's got to be easier than it would have been if Tyler goes out in the third day of camp, right?
Right, of course. I think also too, you're going to have more defensive versatility. I mean, we saw Serbia stick Nico on Turkey's point guard in the fourth quarter. Like we saw Serbia put Nico on Lauri Markkanen the whole game. So, I mean, there's going to be some defensive versatility from Pella, from Nico, from Bam. I think Wiggins, I'm not expecting Wiggins to have an all-star season. I expect him to bounce back in some way, right? But I think just the chip on the shoulder is going to be there day one when guys walk into training camp. And I think you saw that from Spo when he called out Khalil at Summer League.
Yeah.
That's not something he normally does.
No,
right? And I don't think
hadn't done it in basically 7 years. Yeah.
Exactly. And
so
I don't think that's just a Khalil thing, especially with how the team got wiped off the floor against the Cavaliers and how last season went. I think Spo is going to set the tone. But I think it's something he's not excited about Tyler's injury, right? But I think that back against the wall, I think the team is going to be tighter.
Well, I can already hear the first thing. We're not here feeling sorry for ourselves. Nobody's going to feel sorry.
Of course,
we have enough. I don't even.
I want to place bets on the Spoisms that he's going to say.
Yeah, I don't even need. So we have enough. We have enough. Our guys know what's at stake. That's it. I don't know how you could watch what happened last year, or remember what happened last year, and not come out here wanting to give your best effort.
Of course.
I'll get all the Spoisms down before I go watch the Dolphins lose to the Jets that same night at the stadium. But why is media day always on a Dolphin game day? That's it. So
y'all need something in Miami to distract you.
Well, I got the Panthers, but that's a Broward thing. That's across the street from me. Anyway, Eternal, appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll have more episodes coming up. Check out everything else that's been here on the feed. We know a lot of you took the summer off from us. Why? We have such incredible content. But anyway, if you're back now, We'll try to keep you around. All right. Cash App, use the code on the floor. PrizePicks, use the code FIVE. Have a good one, everybody.